Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Shri Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Shri Radhe Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachanam pangum rangayate girim yat kripatam vande Shri Gurum Dinataran Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all so much for joining today. We'll be talking about the life story of Jatayu. I'm very excited to present this topic and share this with all of you today. Whatever I'll be sharing today is basically whatever I've heard from the senior devotees, acharyas. I've read a few books and I've compiled everything into this particular lecture. I don't want it to be one way, so I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. And as you're all seeing this picture, this is the picture of the place where Jatayu fell. And if you see these small people here, that is the size of us, and this is the size of Jatayu. This is exactly the dimensions of Jatayu. It is said that he was 60 feet tall and 150 feet wide. And he was 60,000 years old when he passed away. So with that, I would like to start with a question. So how does studying the pastimes of pure devotees help us? So I've put three pictures here. One is Bhishma Dev, just about to leave the world when he's having darshan of Lord Krishna. The second picture is Vaman Dev and Bali Maharaj is also about to leave the world. And the third one is Jatayu getting a warm embrace of his beloved Lord Sri Ram and also going back to the spiritual world in his true form. So the question is, how does studying these pastimes of pure devotees help us? Anybody? Please feel free to unmute and speak. Do we even have to study the pastimes of pure devotees? How does it help us?
They set an example for us to follow.
Set an example for us to follow. Thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Suman Mataji. Suman is saying, purifies us. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Anyone else?
We get inspiration from their life.
Yeah, well said, Prabhu. That is one thing I was looking for. We get inspiration from their lives. Anyone else? One more answer? Anybody? Why should we study the pastimes of pure devotees?
Increases our faith.
Increases our faith. Thank you. How to tackle situations. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful answers. So this particular pastime is actually very inspiring, and it increases our faith because it's a rags to riches story. So specifically Jatayu's pastime, why should we study this particular pastime? So even in the Ramayana, there are exemplars for the 9 processes of devotion. And the exemplar for Atma Nivedana, or complete surrender, in Ramayana is Jatayu. So Jatayu's life is a rags to riches story, in the sense that he was born, he didn't have a great birth actually. It was not a good birth. He was born in the animal kingdom, and he was born as a vulture of all birds, So it was not a good birth. And very young, during his childhood, he faced a trauma, a very severe childhood trauma. And we'll discuss that in detail. So that was not a pleasant experience. And also, when he faced a huge failure when he was trying to save or protect Mother Sita. So given all these things, still, he was able to achieve the highest spiritual success. He didn't have a good birth. He experienced huge childhood trauma. He failed in protecting and serving someone who was like his daughter. And still, he achieved the highest spiritual success. So he went from, you can say, mode of ignorance, which is his birth, to the mode of pure goodness. And that is what we'll discuss today. So my next question is, stories such as this, right, where we hear from rags to riches, someone whom you can not even think of that they would attain the highest spiritual perfection. Like Bali Maharaj is the exemplar for Atma Nivedana in Bhagavatam. He also was born in the mode of ignorance, goes through all the modes, and attains the highest level of surrender or complete surrender, Atma Nivedana. So my question is, rags to riches stories are considered the best and most inspiring. Why? If you see, I'll just give you a Bollywood example. The best movie of 2023 was 12th Fail. That is a rags to riches story. Nobody thought that that person could become an IPS officer, and that movie was a hit. So why are these rags to riches stories considered the best and most inspiring? Gives us hope. Anyone else? Gives hope. Yes.
Prabhuji, hard-working nature.
Hardworking nature. Yes. Hardworking nature. Sorry, I'm not able to. Motivates us. Yes. Thank you, Parikshit Prabhu. Irrespective of the situation. Yes. It doesn't matter what the situation is, they still achieve their goal. Any other thoughts? Rags to riches stories. And as Krishnan Prabhu said, they're very inspiring because we feel that if this person could do it, I can also do it. If this person could go from somewhere below me to achieve something higher than me, I'm somewhere in the middle, so there is hope for me that I can also achieve the highest goal. So that is one reason why such stories are very inspiring. So with that background, so there are 4 I's in our life. So we can broadly think of us being in one of these 4 I's. Okay, so this is from Keshav Maharaj, Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj, these 4 I's. So I'm just going to share. The first I is we could be indecisive. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I go here? Should I not go here? Should I buy this property? Should I not buy this property? Should I go for this job? Should I move here? Should I not move here? We are indecisive. So that is one stage. The second thing is sometimes we can be very impulsive. I really want this. I'm going to get this, and this is it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this. That is the impulsive stage. The third, which is slightly higher than the first two, and most of the time, most of the people are in one of these two stages itself. They're indecisive and impulsive. Slightly higher than this is the third eye. Can anybody guess what the third eye could be? Which is also another phase that we many times fall into.
Introspection.
Yes. Who said that?
Karan.
Karan Prabhu? Oh, thank you. So the third stage is introspective. So, and the final stage, the fourth eye, which is higher than introspective, is eye is the clue. Indecisive, impulsive, introspective, and intelligence, intuition, egoistic. It's an I. Egoistic I. I see. So the fourth one is inspiration. Okay. So now I will tell you how these four things, which we can easily understand, fall into the categories of the modes. So the mode of ignorance is where we are indecisive. Should I do this? Should I do that? And then we start becoming very fearful of all the options that we have, and we end up not doing anything. So fear paralyzes, and faith energizes. Okay. And the next one is the impulsive stage, which is passion, the mode of passion. And this is where we really want to get something. So we're in this fruitive mentality where we want to reap something. That is the mode of passion. And the third stage is the mode of goodness, where we become introspective. And the F there is function. So these are the four Fs: fear, fruitive, function. And the last one is the mode of Shuddha Sattva, or pure goodness, which is inspiration. And that is where the faith energizes. So fear paralyzes and faith energizes. So Jatayu, actually, why am I sharing all this? Because Jatayu goes through all these four stages, one after the other, during his life. So that is what we'll cover today. So Jatayu's life in these four stages. His birth, as we discussed, was in the mode of ignorance. His youth was in the mode of passion, where he tries to reach the sun. His adulthood was in the mode of goodness. And towards the end of his adulthood and old age, he attained the mode of pure goodness. So before we do that, I just want to ask this question: is a great personality born? So I'll share a story here. So there was a person who was about to enter a village, and at the border of the village, there was a small boy. And then he asked this question: is there any great personality born in your village? For that, the boy immediately responds, everyone born in my village is born as a baby. So what does this mean? Everyone born in my village is born as a baby. Any thoughts? Please feel free to unmute and speak.
That it means that like all are born kind of same level. No one is great.
Yeah. So what he's saying is, no one is actually born great. Everyone is born as a baby, and then they eventually grow and become great, right? So that's what this means. So now let's look at the lineage or the parental history of Jatayu. So Kashyapa Muni was married to Vinata. So Kashyapa is the grandson of Brahma. So he was married to Vinata, and they had two sons, Aruna and Garuda. So we all know who Garuda is. Garuda is Vishnu Vahana, and Aruna is very less known, even though Aruna was the elder brother. Okay. And Aruna is the father of Jatayu and Sampati. Okay, so with that background, let's talk a little bit about Jatayu's birth and why he was born as a vulture. So the father of Jatayu is Aruna, and he was the charioteer of Suryadev. You see here, even though he was the older brother, he became the charioteer of Suryadev in the sun planet. And his uncle Garuda was Vishnu Vahana. And we all know about Garuda. He was very majestic, and he was always serving the Lord. He was the personal carrier of Lord Vishnu. So in this, somebody mute. I think somebody is, can one of the co-hosts mute people who are okay. So now Aruna, even though he was the elder brother, he started becoming envious of Garuda, right? Because I'm the elder brother and I'm just the carrier of Suryadev, and you are the younger brother and you are carrying Vishnu. So he had two prayers, and two desires, you can say. In those two prayers, because they were born out of the root of envy, they were not completely fulfilled. I'll explain what that means. So the two prayers that he always had was, I want two sons, both as powerful as my brother Garuda, and both must serve the Supreme Lord. So in one sense, both those wishes were fulfilled, because his two sons were Jatayu and Sampati. Both were extremely powerful, but they were not as majestic as Garuda. They were vultures, actually. So in one sense, because the desire was born out of envy, it was not fully fulfilled. And the other one was, it was a devotional desire where he said that they should serve the Supreme Lord. So both Sampati and Jatayu served the Supreme Lord, but materialistically speaking, both their services were not 100% complete. Jatayu failed, and Sampati also, to a certain extent, couldn't completely serve the Lord. So the lesson here is, a prayer, if it is rooted in envy, even though it might get fulfilled, it will still not be fully fulfilled the way you want it. Okay. So Kashyapa, when you reverse that word, it becomes Pashyaka. And the two children of Aruna were born in ignorance. And because Aruna had this devotional desire, they were able to serve the Lord directly and attain the platform of pure goodness. So I'll be putting out several quotes and lessons in the next 1 hour or so. So the first question is, was Aruna's prayer right? So the first lesson or quote is, see Krishna not just as a fulfiller of desires, but as a fulfillment of desires. So many times we approach the Lord just to fulfill our desires. But if we approach the Lord with the mood of that desire, of Krishna being the fulfillment of that desire, that is much better. One example could be like, okay, I have this desire to get a house, but Krishna, please let me get this house so that I can serve your devotees better. So see Krishna not just as a fulfiller of desires, but as a fulfillment of your desires. Dhruva Maharaj is also an example of this. So the next quote or lesson is, turn to Krishna not for giving us what we desire, but for guiding us what to desire. Many times we turn to Krishna asking him to give us what we think we want, but we don't even know what we actually want. So turn to Krishna not for giving us what we desire, but for guiding us what to desire. So with this, let's continue with Jatayu. So as I mentioned a few times, so both Jatayu and Sampati were born in the mode of ignorance, and ignorance is indecisive. So in ignorance, they were born in the body of a vulture, animal body. They would eat flesh of animals, of dead animals. It was very much in the mode of ignorance. All that they would do is just eat the flesh of animals, sleep. They wanted to do different things, but they were very not able to make decisions. And because of that, they were paralyzed and not doing anything. So that is how they started their life. So both Jatayu and Sampati were, you can say, born in the mode of ignorance. But even if someone is born in the mode of ignorance, every dark cloud has a silver lining. So they were given 3 very nice boons or benedictions, you can say. So they had extremely good vision. They could see with clarity miles apart, like miles, something that was miles away. They could fly at extremely high speeds. It is said that they could fly at the speed of thought. And they were extremely huge, powerful, strong. At their youth, they were 60 feet tall and 150 feet wide and so on. So they were given these benedictions also. So one day, Sampati reminded Jatayu, and this is very profound what he says, that rather than just lead a life like this, if we are not striving to raise ourselves towards our higher nature, we are sliding downwards towards our lower natures. So our character exists as if on a slope. So what Sampati is telling Jatayu here is that let's do something with our lives. Let's not just keep sliding down, but let's try to raise our consciousness to a higher nature. This impacted Jatayu very much. And from that day on, he changed and he became from indecisive to impulsive. He moved from mode of ignorance to mode of passion. So he became over enthusiastic and restless. He was always thinking, I want this, I want that, very, very restless, enthusiastic, which are all characteristics of the mode of passion. And one day they decided, especially Jatayu, he decided that now let's go to Surya. Let's go to Surya and conquer the sun planet. So Jatayu was very adamant about this, but Sampati said, it could be very risky. Maybe we should not do it. Let's not go on this adventure. He was trying to stop his younger brother, but Jatayu was very, very adamant. And he said, no, nothing will happen. Let's just go. It'll be a wonderful adventure. And without even thinking twice, because of that impulsive nature, he started flying at a very high speed towards the sun. Sampati, even though he was a little hesitant, he had to follow behind Jatayu. And so where did this particular desire come from? So some strong inherent desires come from our past history, which we may not even know, right? So Aruna, who was the father of Jatayu, was a resident of the Surya planet, resident of the sun planet. So Jatayu was drawn towards his father. And Sampati was following behind him. And little did they know that this was going to be their last flight together. So they both, Jatayu and Sampati, are flying towards Surya. Jatayu is going faster ahead, and he's not listening to his elder brother because of overconfidence. Overconfidence, you can say, over-enthusiasm, and so on. So this brings us, and of course, Sampati keeps telling him, Jatayu, please stop, listen to me, there is danger ahead. And as they're going closer and closer to the sun, a big ball of fire starts coming towards them because they're very, very close to the sun. And at that time also, Sampati is yelling, Jatayu, please stop, listen to me, there is danger ahead. So what is happening here is, so there's an important lesson here. The lesson is, overconfidence keeps us trapped inside our abilities. Overconfidence keeps us trapped inside our abilities. What that means is in that particular trap, because you're overconfident, you're not willing to listen to good advice that is given by others. You're overconfident and you feel that nothing is going to happen and you just want to go for it, right? And that actually keeps us trapped inside our abilities. On the other extreme, too much modesty also is not good. Modesty keeps our abilities trapped inside us. Overconfidence keeps us trapped inside our abilities, but modesty keeps our abilities trapped inside us. So what is the balance? Balance is confidence enables us to tap our abilities. So let's continue with our story. So now Jatayu and Sampati are flying at extremely high speeds towards the sun. A ball of fire is coming towards Jatayu. And at that time, so the analogy that I want to give here is, this typically happens, especially for all the parents here, you will know this. When a child is, let's say, crossing the road and a car is coming towards the child and you ask the child to stop, but the child looks back and keeps running, right? Because the child is not aware of the danger that is ahead. At that time, what does the mother do? The mother will do anything possible to prevent the child from getting hurt. So Sampati was like the mother, the father of Jatayu in one sense, even though he was the elder brother. So what he does is he uses all his strength, energy, and he goes, he cannot go ahead of Jatayu, because if he goes ahead of Jatayu, both of them will get hurt. So what he decides is that he'll go above Jatayu, and when he's a little bit ahead of Jatayu, he will fall down on Jatayu so that both of them can fall down rather than go straight. That was the plan. So with all his strength, he goes above and ahead of Jatayu, and he falls down in front of Jatayu while covering Jatayu with his huge wings. He's covering Jatayu with his huge wings, and the ball of fire hits the plumes, the feathers of Sampati. And when it hits, and both of them now fall at tremendous speeds towards earth, right? Now, Jatayu's feathers are burning. Sampati's feathers are burning, and Jatayu is seeing that. So all this happened very quickly for Jatayu to even digest. So while they're falling, Jatayu is seeing his brother for the last time, and they're falling at very, very high speeds. And Jatayu falls into a forest called as Janasthan, and Sampati falls into the southern ocean. And Sampati is saved, as we know, but Jatayu does not know whether his brother is saved or not. So there is this huge trauma that happens, that exists in Jatayu's life now, because this word Jatayu, please stop, keeps ringing so hard in his ear. And this kept ringing in his ear till the last day of his life, actually. So he kept thinking that he was the cause of his brother's death. He didn't even know if his brother was alive or dead, and or if he had a permanent handicap. He had no idea. So he always felt this guilt that because of my passion, because of my selfish need to enjoy adventure, my brother is hurt or even probably dead, right? So now, interestingly, the law of karma acts wonderfully. So here, what happened is the same thing that Jatayu experiences, that Sampati experiences now, the pain, Jatayu also experiences on the last day. On the last day, Jatayu is also falling down, the same kind of pain because of one of his wings injured. And Sampati tried to help Jatayu here, and Jatayu on the last day tried to help someone, right? So it is exactly a reversal of what had happened. So the last day, but the interesting thing is, even though the law of karma will always act on us, we can choose to serve the Lord. We can choose to serve the Lord despite our karma. And that leads us to elevated levels of consciousness. We'll discuss more about the last day. So Jatayu fell into a thick forest called Janasthan, as I mentioned, which is also Panchavati, and Sampati fell into the southern ocean. So when we are in this mode of passion, the next lesson for us is worry not just about how we perform. When we are in this mode of passion, just like how Jatayu was, all that he cared was how fast he could go, how well he could perform. But never once did he think or did he work on how he can reform himself. Because in that mode of passion, you're not able to even understand how to reform yourself. So Jatayu, after he fell down in Janasthan, he became very introspective. Now, this is the change of mode again. We started with ignorance to passion, where he tried to reach the sun. And now he gets into this mode of introspection, which is the third mode, which is the mode of goodness. So Jatayu, from that day, decided to live a life of service, focusing on others' needs, interests, and concerns. So the modern day example is that you can think of people who achieve everything in life. You can think of Bollywood actors, athletes, and so on. But after a certain point, they want to serve others through humanitarian, philanthropic activities. Are there any examples that you can think of? Anybody?
Hi, yeah.
Hi, Megha. Yes.
Yeah, so Sonu Sood, like at the time of COVID, for example, he built, like in Mumbai, he helped a lot in hospitals.
Okay, wonderful. Who's Sonu Sood?
He's not Amitabh Bachchan, of course, but he's quite famous.
Okay.
Yeah, people know him in India.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. So Bill Gates, Karan Prabhu is saying Bill Gates. Any other examples?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Yes. He's also a wonderful example. Got into a lot of philanthropic activities. In fact, he's the one who encouraged Bill Gates, right, to start Bill and Melinda Foundation, I think. Any other examples? So you see this repeated, the same theme. When someone gets into extreme levels of passion, they get into the mode of goodness also, because they want to move from that selfish nature to a more selfless nature where they want to serve others. Okay.
Purandaradasa.
Purandardasa. Can you elaborate, Prabhu?
Purandaradasa was a rich merchant,
Yes.
and then his, and then he's, there is that incident of his wife's jewelry, piece of jewelry, and then he realizes that, that he has seen God, but he didn't recognize God. And then
Yeah.
after becomes, he becomes a saint.
Yes, yes. So these are examples of not just stopping at the mode of goodness, but they also go into pure goodness. Purandardasa, and someone mentioned Alfred Ford. I think Nupur mentioned Alfred Ford. He is also Ambarish Maharaj, who's also he's gone beyond the mode of goodness into serving the Lord directly. So we'll come to that because even Jatayu goes through that. So the quote here is, so when Jatayu was going through this pain of trauma. So it is said that in this world, we cannot avoid pain, but we can avoid transmitting pain to others. How? By transforming our pain into a purpose that helps raise others and us also above the pain. I'll repeat, we can't avoid pain in this world, but we can avoid transmitting our pain to others. How? By transforming our pain into a purpose. So what was the purpose that Jatayu decided to do now? What was his purpose now? His purpose was he gave himself a self-assigned role as the protector of all the resident hermits in Panchavati. So Panchavati was known to be a place where there were a lot of sages, a lot of rishis, sages, who would perform yagyas throughout the day. And Jatayu made it his sole purpose to protect all these sages. Most of them were performing yagyas and they were meditating on the impersonal Brahman. They were monoists. monists, mostly. So he helped all the sages and protected them from Rakshasas. There were a lot of demons also in that area. So Jatayu would be the protector of all these sages. Important, the point is that there were monists, but none of them were devotees of the Lord. Okay. And he also helped the needy animals. He was honest, he was very truthful. All the wonderful moral qualities, the ethical qualities he imbibed. And he also learned astrology at that time, because by listening to all these sages constantly, he knew all the muhurtas. What are the good muhurtas, bad muhurtas, what would happen when certain muhurtas would happen during a particular time. If you were to do something, what would happen, and so on. And this, please remember this, because this will come very handy later on his last day. Okay. And during this time was the time where he also could understand his family lineage. He knew that his father was a charioteer in the Surya planet. So all this he understood, he learned, he was very introspective in this mode of goodness. One night, he had a nice dream. In that dream, he saw his father Aruna, who came there in his dream, and he instructed him. He said, I know that you're in this mode of goodness, you're doing so many wonderful things to others, but there is no full satisfaction, which Jatayu also agreed. There was not a full satisfaction for him. He said, there is no full satisfaction until you serve. He was saying the last word, but something woke up Jatayu at that time. It was the sound of horses. Takataka, 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 takataka. Lord, it was not one horse, but 10 horses. Somebody was riding a chariot with 10 horses. Can anybody guess who that was?
Ravana.
It was not.
Dasaratha.
Yes, yes, Mataji. it was Dashratha. Yes. So Jatayu was not fully satisfied in the mode of goodness, and that person who was riding the horse with 10 chariots was Dashrath. He was called Dashrath because not just because he was on a chariot with 10 horses, Dasharath, but he was also able to control the 10 senses, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the 5 action performing senses. He was able to control all of these senses. That is why he was called Dashrath. So what Dashrath would do, it was a common habit for him, is that he would go to these forests very early in the morning, and it was a very peaceful environment at that time. Instead of hunting, he would sit and meditate. So he came to Panchavati that particular day, which Jatayu was watching, and he sat down and he was meditating on the Supreme Lord. He was a devotee. This is the first devotee that Jatayu meets. This is the first devotee that Jatayu meets. Till that time, he had met a lot of rishis, he had served them and so on. So at that time, when Dashrath was meditating, a lot of Rakshasas, demons start attacking Dashrath. And Jatayu was watching this, saves Dashrath when he was attacked by the demons. So Dashrath, when he wakes up from his meditation, and when he comes out of his meditation, he thanks Jatayu, and then begins a wonderful friendship between the two of them. And they served each other many times, helped each other. In fact, there is one long pastime, but I'll just mention it in one sentence. Ayodhya was cursed to have 11 years of Shani. And then at that time, Dashrath actually goes to the planet of the Shani with Jatayu to fight against Shani. So they were that close, they would help each other in many, many ways. So Dashrath said, I will pray that you serve the Supreme Lord. So first time somebody is praying like this. So when you serve a devotee, and the devotee prays that I will pray that you serve the Supreme Lord, then, only then, do you have an opportunity to become a devotee, right? And Jatayu also made a promise because he was very much in the mode of goodness. He said, I pray that I will protect your family till I die as their father. He made this promise. And Dashrath also said, I will pray that you serve the Supreme Lord. So they developed a deep, everlasting friendship. Okay. So an important lesson for us is to go to Krishna or Vishnu, you must get the association of a devotee of the Lord. So in this particular story that we are reading, that we are hearing, so Jatayu, of course, met Dashrath, who was a devotee of the Lord. Can you think of other examples where someone met a devotee of the Lord and hence became a devotee, or and hence went to see the Lord, like Vishnu or Krishna?
The Nalakuvera and Manigriva.
Nalakuvara and Manigriva. Yes, Narad Muni. Yes, yes. Wonderful example. Thank you, Prabhu. Mrigari meeting Narad Muni. Yes, thank you, Lekha.
In Dhruva's Narada came.
Yes, Dhruva also. Narada came. Yes, thank you, Mataji. And even people who want to hurt the Lord, right? Even they cannot go to the Lord directly. I'll give you two examples. So Durvas Muni also, he was able to go to Vishnu only after he met Lord Shiva, who is Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, right? He's a devotee of the Lord. And he was able to go to Vishnu because he met Lord Shiva. One more example is Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu Muni also met Lord Shiva first and only then could go to Vishnu. So we are all here today because someone prayed for us that let this person get an opportunity to serve the Lord. Otherwise, we would not be on the Zoom call. We would not be devotees actually. Someone somewhere showed that extreme compassion on us and really prayed for us, saying that let this person serve the Lord. Let this person become a devotee. So we should be eternally be grateful for devotees and their association. So Kanishta Adhikari is one who thinks that it's just me and Krishna, me and the Lord. What is the need for a devotee? But it is the devotees who actually take us to the Lord. So that's the point I wanted to make on this. So several thousands of, years later, several years later, so till now, when their friendship was going on, so Lord Ram was not even born actually. So several years later, Jatayu got to meet Lord Ram. So this was when, and where did they meet? They met in Panchavati only. So Lord Ram, as we all know, he was in a 14-year exile. The first year he spent in Chitrakoot. The next 10 years he spent in Dandakaranya forest. And now, for the last 3 years, the plan was to spend time at Panchavati based on the instructions given by sage Agastya Muni. So when they entered Panchavati, that is when they met this huge, majestic bird, Jatayu, for the first time. And when Jatayu asked Lord Ram, who are you? Such noble personalities, such divine personalities, who are you? That's when Lord Ram says that he's the son of Dashrath. And then when Jatayu asks, where is my dear friend Dashrath now? And when Lord Ram says that he has passed away, Jatayu collapsed on hearing his friends passing, actually. And that was the first time where the Lord Sri Ram, actually placed Jatayu on his lap and caressed him, and sprinkled water on him and spoke nice words. And till that point, Jatayu had not experienced a human who would show such nice actions towards him, and that immediately won the heart of Jatayu. And he made a promise that for the next 3 years, while you're here in Panchavati, whenever you brothers go looking for food, I will protect my daughter Janaki. And this was actually in line with the promise that he made to Dashrath also. So he made this promise that he would protect Sita Mata. Are you all with me so far? Is it boring? So at this point, so Jatayu was in bliss, chanting Lord Ram's names all the time and serving them in several ways. Whenever they wanted to go anywhere, Jatayu would fly above them and act like an umbrella, and he would also move in such a way, he would show them wonderful places in Panchavati, he would take them to beautiful gardens, he would every day get flowers to Mother Sita so that she could make beautiful garlands for Lord Ram. He would get wonderful fruits. He was always serving this divine couple and Lakshman, and always chanting the Lord's names. Okay. So it is said by our acharyas that if nothing else had happened after that, Jatayu would still go back home, back to Godhead. He would still go back to the spiritual world just because of the association of the Lord and for the amount of service that he had rendered. But many times the Lord, because he wants to show the whole world what an amazing devotee is, he puts them in certain very difficult situations. And that is what happens in the case of Jatayu. So now we'll focus for the next 30 minutes or so on the last day of Jatayu's life. So now we have seen all the 4 stages, right, of Jatayu, starting from the mode of ignorance. He moved to passion. From passion, he moved to goodness, where he was selflessly serving all the rishis. And then from there, he moved to mode of pure goodness, where he was serving the Lord directly and chanting the Lord's names. Now, on the last day, all these 4 modes come back to him. So it so happened that while he was, of course, he was very, very old at this time. He was 60,000 years old. And he was resting that morning and he was in deep sleep. But even so, in all these 4 modes on the last day, the service of Lord Ram was there. And you'll notice this. Before, in the earlier part of his life, even though the 4 modes, he passed through the 4 modes, Lord Ram was not there. But now you'll see, even in the mode of ignorance, even while sleeping, he was thinking of Lord Ram. So while he was sleeping that morning, so while he was sleeping, somebody was yelling, somebody was shouting loudly, Jatayu, 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 Jatayu. Somebody was calling loudly. So this immediately reminded him of his past when Sampati was similarly calling Jatayu, Jatayu. Any guesses who was that person who was calling out Jatayu, Jatayu on the last day? Should be easy. Who was calling out? Yes.
Could be Sita.
Yeah, so Mother Sita was calling out Jatayu, Jatayu. And so Sita, she was calling out Jatayu, Jatayu, and all that she said was, the only instruction that she said was, just pass on the information to Lord Ram that I am being kidnapped by Ravana. That's all that she says, right? She was not even expecting him to come and fight Ravan. So at this point, a huge inner battle happens within Jatayu. So what is one of the characteristics of the mode of ignorance that we discussed? What is the first characteristic? First I?
Indecisive.
Yes. So he was not able to decide whether he should fight against Ravan or not. Okay. So now let's put ourselves in Jatayu's shoes and think of some reasons why we should not fight. Anybody?
Ravan is a very powerful king. Like, he has physical powers. He's a Rakshas, so he has like magical power, which might not be. It's not an equal competition with him. He's way more powerful and cunning.
He's way more powerful and cunning. Thank you. So he has a lot of weapons, and Jatayu has no weapons. Okay, so that is one reason. Any other reason? Somebody else also unmuted.
Sita's instruction itself, right? She just said, tell Ram. She didn't say fight. So
yeah. So Nitya is saying he should stay alive to inform Ram. That is another reason. And Sita's instruction. Anything else? Anyone else? And Parikshit Prabhu is saying, if he dies during fight, he might not be able to pass on the message. Exactly. Very, very valid point. If he dies during the fight, that's it. You never know if you'll be able to pass on the message. Soham is saying, maybe follow Ravan and get information where he's taking Sita. Okay. So these are all very, very valid reasons. What are some of the reasons why he should fight? And this actually won over the other. What are some of the reasons why he should fight?
Prabhu, his promise to Dashratha, his friend, to protect.
Yes,
his
remember
family.
his promise to his friend Dashrath that he will protect his family until he dies, and also his promise to Lord Ram, right? That he said that he would always protect his daughter Janaki. Anything else? Any other reason why he chose to fight? Other than the promise?
Maybe there will be enough time for Ram to come back during.
Beautiful. So maybe if he fights and holds Ravan, maybe Lord Ram could come back and probably, fight Ravan himself at that time. Any other reasons?
And the Prabhu is Dharma to, the honor of a woman. He has to protect.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. So it's a dharma to protect women who's abducted. So I'll just summarize all these points. So the reasons why he should not fight is, of course, he did not have any weapons. Nobody mentioned this, but he was extremely old. In fact, if Jatayu was young, he could have actually easily defeated Ravan, it is said. But because he was old, he was 60,000 years old, there is no way that he could have actually won the battle. So I will surely lose the battle. So even why try, So Sita is asking me only to inform Lord Ram, as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu mentioned. But it all seemed a little selfish to him at that time. And there were some reasons why he should fight Ravan. The first thing is he thought about his childhood. Again, nobody mentioned this. Sampati's sacrifice and the teaching that Sampati gave him, that sometimes it's okay to put your life at risk in order to save someone else. And no fool would witness such an abduction of one's daughter. You can't say that, oh, I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to find Lord Ram, I'm going to do something else. The abduction is happening and he's going at a very, very fast pace. Ravan is going at a very fast pace. So he had to do something. And just imagine if he were to go to Lord Ram and say that Ravan was kidnapping your wife, what would Lord Ram say? Why didn't you do something? Right? I mean, all these thoughts came to him. And of course, fighting would have been a higher purpose than going back. And of course, the vow that was made to Lord Ram, and that he will always protect Mother Sita. And he felt that this was selfless and an act of service. So what he decided was, he didn't think that I'm going to protect Mother Sita. He said, I am going to serve Mother Sita. It's a very important level of consciousness and this made him get into that next stage of mode of passion, even on the last day, and move towards Ravan. His decision was made, and now he was going towards Ravan to fight the battle. So now at this point, he first of all tries to convince Ravan that what he's doing is very foolish. He says, if you're as brave as you claim, then fight with the mighty brothers in a fair combat. Why do you steal a helpless wife like a petty thief? Of course, all these things did not even enter Ravan. He was just convinced that what he was doing was right. And even though Ravan could hear these words, he couldn't see who the opponent was. And suddenly he felt a huge turbulence in his chariot, which was flying. And he almost got a little fearful. Who could this be? Who could this powerful person be? And then when he saw Jatayu, a bird, an old vulture, because he was old, that is when Ravan became very calm. He said that, what can an old bird do to me? Okay. So for the next 5-10 minutes, I'm going to tell how Jatayu was actually winning this battle. Jatayu almost won this battle against Ravana. So he ripped off the umbrella of Ravan's chariot and broke the royal umbrella. He dislodged all the 10 golden crowns of Ravana's head. Till that point, no one was able to dislodge even one crown of Ravana's head. Jatayu on that day dislodged all 10 golden crowns from the heads of Ravan. And Ravan was not, of course, he was not quiet. He was using his bow and arrows and trying to shoot arrows at Jatayu. But Jatayu diverted the arrows with his beak, claws, and he was flapping his wings, and somehow, he was diverting most of the arrows. Then Ravan used 100 arrows, and he let go all those 100 arrows at once towards Jatayu. And Jatayu was almost like covered like a nest. And Ravan thought that this was it. But Jatayu extended himself, stretched himself, and got rid of all of those 100 arrows. Now, at this point, Jatayu was in pain. He was bleeding. And in spite of that pain and in spite of the bleeding that he was going through, he flung the bow that, Ravana was holding. He pecked Ravana's head because there was no crowns at the time. And he used his claws to attack and pull the flesh of Ravana. So Ravana was getting bewildered. He was almost losing this battle. So not only that, the horses were dislodged. The charioteer was killed. And the chariot started falling down. In fact, the chariot fell down and it was crushed to pieces, actually. And just before the chariot fell, of course, Ravan, with his mystic powers, was able to save himself and Mother Sita. And at that point, Ravan thought that this bird is not an ordinary bird. I have to use my intelligence to defeat him. So Jatayu's whole body was bleeding, and also he was getting very tired. At that time, Ravana thought that he summoned another Pushpak Viman, and now he said, I must use my intelligence. So he summoned the Pushpak Viman, he put Mother Sita there in one corner, and he said, hey, Jatayu, congratulations, bravo, Jatayu. And then he says, both of us are getting weak. It seems like a stalemate. So let's end this by discussing our weaknesses. So he says, Jatayu, what is your weakness? And I will tell you my weakness. So he says that, and I will tell you my weakness first before you tell me yours. So Jatayu, he knew the codes of warfare, and he thought that, Ravan would follow the codes of warfare. And of course, Ravan goes first and he says, my weakness is my right toe. And Jatayu says at that time that my weakness is my wings. Till that point, Ravan had not even attacked the wings of Jatayu. He was attacking the body of Jatayu. And now he knows the weakness of Jatayu. And now both of them were like two huge mountains, one final attempt towards each other. They were like two huge mountains coming towards one another, both trying to get to the other's weakness. At least that's what Jatayu thought. So Jatayu thought that just like how a seagull, I don't know if you've seen a seagull, how it goes and into the water and gets a fish out with its claws, right? So that was the plan of Jatayu, that he would go to the right toe, even though the toe is like hidden. He wanted to go down and attack the toe of Ravan. And Ravan at that time got the last uncontested weapon, which was the Chandrahasa weapon that he had gotten from Ravan. And he pulled it out. It was a sword. And just when Jatayu was trying to get to the toe of Ravan, with one swoosh, he cut the right wing of Jatayu. And just when Jatayu was trying to hold on with his two claws, trying to hold on to the chariot, hold on to Ravan, he cut the two legs of Jatayu as well. He just cut the two legs. At this point, Jatayu started falling down from the chariot, and he could hear Ravan laughing, saying that only a fool will believe the words of a Rakshasa. And he's looking at Mother Sita, and with his eyes, he's telling that I tried my best, but I couldn't, protect you. I couldn't serve you like that. So here's a lesson for us. When the doors in front of us close, faith, remember I told faith energizes? Faith empowers us to keep our eyes open for the doors that Krishna might open. When the doors in front of us close, faith empowers us to keep our eyes open for the doors that Krishna might open. So while falling, there are a few things that that were happening. So Jatayu was experiencing extreme physical pain because his wing was cut off, his claws were cut off, and he was also going through a lot of painful thoughts, right? The thoughts were something like, should I have even fought this? Should I have not listened to this evil Ravana when he told me about his right toe? So many thoughts started coming in his mind. At that time, he decided that I'm not going to entertain any of these thoughts, but I'm going to go into this mode of pure goodness. And he decided to do just one thing, and that was to chant Lord Ram's names. So I'm just going to sing a little bit here. So he sang something like Ram, 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 Ram. Ram, 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 Ram. Nitya can sing.
Ram, 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 Ram. Ram, 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 Ram.
Ram, 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 Ram. Ram, 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 Ram.
This time Lekha can sing.
Ram, 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 Ram. Ram, 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 Ram.
So while singing like this, Jatayu fell on the ground in the forest, and he was seeing Ravana take Sita and leave. So now a painful wait started, right? A painful wait. He didn't even know if Ram would even come there, but he just had faith. He just had faith in the holy names that if he just keeps chanting, the Lord will come. That is the kind of faith that we should have towards the end of our lives. Towards the end of our lives also, we'll also experience something similar to this. We'll have so many thoughts in our mind. What is going to happen to my near and dear ones? What's going to happen to my property? What's going to happen this, that? So many thoughts. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? So many thoughts comes, but we have to again energize ourselves with faith and just keep, even if you're not able to chant. In this particular case, it is said that Jatayu, he was so weak that he was not able to even chant. With every breath, he was just remembering the Lord. Ram, 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 Ram. Ram, 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 Ram. Remember, he was in extreme physical pain also. Okay. So at this point, all the animals in the forest were thinking that these species like Ravan are worse than animals, and all the trees, all the clouds were crying, seeing this wonderful soul about to leave his body, right? And in spite of all that, he was just calling out, Ram, 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 right? So at that point, there were some last tests of Jatayu. This was not it, now the last tests of Jatayu were very interesting. So he was calling Ram, 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 Ram. It so happened that everything in the forest, the trees would bend so that they would create a path for the Lord, Ram and Lakshman, so that they could move towards Jatayu. So everything was arranged, orchestrated, so that they were moving towards Jatayu. Now, when they were close to Jatayu, Ram and Lakshman saw this huge mountainous chunk of blood-wrapped flesh. When they saw that, immediately they thought that a demon has swallowed Mother Sita. A demon has swallowed Mother Sita, and we should immediately kill this demon. So both of them pulled out their arrows and they were about to shoot Jatayu. They were about to shoot at Jatayu, right? And at that time, they were going closer and closer. They thought that they could have shot Jatayu from a distance. But they thought that let's just go closer and see if there's any hope that Sita may be alive, right? So they were going closer and closer. And now just imagine Jatayu's position at this time. So he's seeing the Lord whom he's chanting come here with extreme anger, eyes red, about to kill him. The only word that he says at that time, any guesses? What is the word that comes out of Jatayu at that time?
Ram, Ram.
Ayushman Bhava.
Yes. So this, I want to freeze this moment here, because this is the consciousness of a pure devotee. Even when they're dying, the only thing that they have is extreme compassion for anyone who comes there at that time, right? So he says, Ayushman, Ayushman Bhava. So even Bhishma, when he was dying on the bed of arrows and the Pandavas came there, the only thing that he says is that what anyaya has happened to you? I mean, what misfortune, what anyaya has happened to you? Are you all okay? He's just worried about them. And even Srila Prabhupada, when he was leaving the world, when Brahmanand Prabhu came and he had a small stomach upset or something, Prabhupada was inquiring about him. So that is the consciousness of a pure devotee. So he says, Ayushman at that time. As soon as Ram and Lakshman hear that, they immediately put their arrows down and they run towards Jatayu. They recognize Jatayu's voice and they run towards Jatayu. Sorry, my computer is hanging. They run towards Jatayu, and Lord Ram took Jatayu's head on his lap and started caressing it. Now here, a pure devotee is with the Lord, and both the pure devotee and the Lord are crying for one another. The tears of the pure devotee and the tears of Lord Ram are merging with one another. What that means is the desire of the Lord and the desire of the devotee become one, completely become one at this point. And at this point, Jatayu is not experiencing any pain. Every atom of his body is in ecstasy, because now the touch of Lord Ram's lap is there, and every cell is ecstatic. He's not feeling any pain. And this is the perfection of Jatayu's life. He's on the lap of the Lord. He's about to leave his body, but there is one more final test. What is that? Anybody? The final test.
He has to fulfill Mother Sita's instructions.
Yes. So even in the final moment, the final test of service is actually tested. So at this point also, even though he's in extreme bliss, right, at the highest level of spiritual bliss, he remembers that he has to fulfill the service. He has to complete the service. And the service is to tell Lord Ram about where Mother Sita is, who was abducting Mother Sita, and so on. And then at that point, he tells Lord Ram that, there is this Ravana is a very cunning and shrewd person, and he planned it in such a way that he kidnapped Mother Sita in a particular muhurta called Vindhya Muhurta. And in that muhurta, if somebody kidnaps somebody or somebody takes something that belongs to someone else, that they will never get that back. But by my fighting, I was able to delay and take it to the next muhurta. And in the next muhurta, if something is lost, the owner will get it back. So just 1 second. My slides are stuck here. Okay. So yeah. So the next muhurta was called Punarvasu Muhurta, and that is when Ravana actually left Panchavati. So here Jatayu is telling that don't worry, Lord Ram, that you will get back Mother Sita because it was in a different muhurta. So this is another reason why Jatayu chose to fight, sacrifice his life. So of course, after this, Lord Ram performed the final rites. Just try to share my screen again. I don't know why this is happening. I'm almost done. I'll just finish in another 5 minutes. Okay, yeah. So this is the final rites. So now the question is, why does the Lord choose to test his pure devotees like this, right? Why so much pain, so much difficulty? So it is said by our acharyas that the Lord does this because of 3 reasons. So for some pure devotees, he puts them, like for example, if you take gold, right? So gold can be offered directly to the Lord, but the gold which is put in fire glows more, right? So that is why the Lord chooses to put some people in fire so that their qualities glow more, and so that we all appreciate several generations later. The next example is sandalwood. Now, sandalwood, the smell of sandalwood we get, which we can offer to the Lord, is when there is friction. When there's friction, it produces the best smell. And the last one is sugarcane, which is the toughest, where the sugarcane is crushed. Sugarcane is crushed, and this is the example of devotees like Jatayu, and they produce the nectar, which is relished by all of us because we see the devotion here. So I want to stop here, but I just want to mention one prayer that Burijan Prabhu always mentions. May the hard crushing wheel of time or wheel of life extract some humility from my offense hardened heart, and may the nectar of that humility give rise to pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for bearing with me. And if there are any questions or any reflections, I would like to hear. Yes, Megha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Aleka.
Prabhu, thank you for this amazing. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for this wonderful lecture. I know you already mentioned it to me once, but just hearing this again, it reinforces a lot of a lot of faith and a lot of introspection. Just like how Krishnan Prabhu mentioned, sometimes our situation is much better than the situation that these devotees were in, and they were in a much worse difficult situation, and they were determined to serve the Lord and have this higher perspective. So that's something that's like a take home message for me today from this lecture. Thank you so much. It's
Thank you
very
so much.
inspiring and something to be meditated on.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Lekha Mataji. Thank you. Anyone else? Any reflections? Anything?
Prabhu, is
Yes.
it possible to show the prayer again? The last prayer that you mentioned, that was
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes. So the last prayer is, may the hard crushing wheel of life extract some humility from my offense hardened heart, and may the nectar of that humility give rise to pure love for Krishna.
Thank you.
I will share the quote and the recording also. So
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
any other thoughts, or we can end otherwise?
This was as mesmerizing as when we had heard it for the first time. But yeah, it was very beautiful, and not only that you kept us absorbed in this, but we could see you also absorbed so much in the narration. So just like Shukadev Goswami was absorbed in speaking Bhagavatam and Maharaj Parikshit was absorbed in hearing, similarly I could sense that from all of us here. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. I hope someday I get even a drop of the devotion that Jatayu had for Lord Ram. So
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this was such a mesmerizing class. You took us through from the modes of ignorance to the mode of passion to the mode of goodness and the mode of pure goodness. So it was so wonderful to follow the story and all the learnings from it. This reminded me of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu did a class on Sampati, many years ago, now 2-3 years ago. I remember hearing it,
oh,
where he explained it in great detail, and so your narration just reminded me of his his storytelling as well. So it was just wonderful.
thank you, Prabhu. I mean, I didn't know that there was a class on Sampati. So
There's a class on Sampati, and they enter. You probably have heard this. They enter a cave, and the cave has. So there is a very detailed story that he did once from the Ramayana. This was 3-4 years ago. He did this.
I see.
I'll try to find it, Prabhu. It's very, very nice. That is also very nice.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. Vrinda Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, very beautiful class. Thank you. And also so many things you told from because we have always just heard it very straightforward, and you told so much detail. And the favorite part was when Jatayu just said Ayushman Bhava. That really reminds of the compassion of devotees. And yeah, I think it's very interesting how he went through all the tests and still he came out with shining colors. And I think every stage of his life was full of tests, which were also like form of Krishna's mercy, like how Sukha Mataji says that whenever there are tests or difficult times, they're actually more merciful times. So yeah, very inspiring story. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vrinda Gopi. Parikshit Prabhu.
I think Jagannath Prabhu was before me, Prabhu.
Oh, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Yes.
So this, I had asked this to you that day as well when you had first delivered this to us, but we didn't get time to discuss this that time. But so Jatayu's pastime is often compared with Ladini Mataji's incident within the movement. So I don't know if for context for everyone, so Ladini Mataji was one of Prabhupada's disciples, and it so happened that she was serving her Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra deities in one of the African countries, and there was this dictator there. He was nuts, actually. He was crazy. And he was gathering all those who were opposing him and killing them. And one devotee in the temple happened to foolishly write a letter to him, preaching to him that you should stop all this and that, things like that. And then this dictator, then when he got that letter, he became furious, and then he came to the temple and lined up everyone to kill them. And then when he lined up, so he said, I'll kill all the men, but I'll not kill the women. So he was going to spare the women. But then then he lined up all the men to shoot them. And at that point, Ladini Mataji thought, in my presence, how can I let a devotee die? So, and then she sort of put herself there, and then and this guy was nuts anyway. So he said, whoever comes in my way, I'll shoot them. And he shot Ladini Mataji. And he shot the other devotees as well, I believe, right? I don't remember now.
Oh, he did not actually. I'm trying to remember. Does anybody else know?
I think he did.
He did, huh? He did. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh.
So Ladini Mataji's story is also compared to Jatayu. So what would you like to say about that? So when I had asked a question to my friends, but Ladini Mataji could have saved herself. Maybe she could have been able to serve better. I was rebuked like anything. How can you think like this, Prabhu? She is compared to Jatayu. Are you crazy? This is what I was asked. So that's why I wanted to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, see, a devotee is extremely paradukka dukhi, So if he sees that someone else is in difficulty, there is no way that he will think about himself, or I should save my life or anything. He will do whatever it takes, just like a mother and a child, right? A mother will do anything. And a devotee's compassion and selflessness is way higher than that, because there's a Krishna factor, the Krishna connection is there. So a devotee will not keep quiet. A genuine devotee will do anything in order to put their lives at risk to save someone else. So I remember when Shyam Sundar Prabhu had this, was it a kidney that he had to get replaced? Yeah, both his kidneys were failing. Liver. So there were, I think, 32 people, donors, who were ready to give their livers. So the doctor was surprised, right, Sundari Saki? They were surprised to see who is this person for whom so many people are willing to give their livers. So that's the same thing. They were willing to sacrifice their own life for another devotee.
So I guess the lesson here is, when a devotee is in trouble, we can't get calculative.
Yeah. I mean, we have to see where we are at, not artificially do it. But the highest level of devotees, they give themselves completely. The highest level of consciousness. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Manan Prabhu, please correct me, Prabhu, if I spoke anything wrong or spoke with pride or anything.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to express my gratitude. It was a wonderful discussion. I remember hearing one class from Maharaj long time ago on Jatayu, but I've never heard all these details. I think you've went through everything very comprehensively, collected all the details. So it's so nice, especially like that chanting of Jatayu towards the end as he's falling down. That was really beautiful, and the way you described and narrated his union with Lord Rama and the whole exchange there.
See, that particular union where the tears merge happens in many pastimes, actually. At the end of the Damodar Leela also it happens. The fruit seller pastime with Krishna also the same thing happens, because that is where the soul does not merge. It is the desire of the devotee and the desire of the Lord merge through the form of tears. And it's a very special thing, actually. I mean, of course, it's very theoretical for me. It's a very theoretical concept, but I always am very touched by that.
So sounds like we have 2 more pastimes to hear from you.
Oh, no. Parikshit
Yeah,
Prabhu.
I've not heard about that with fruit seller. I'd love to hear that.
Oh, yeah. Fruit seller. That's one of my favorite pastimes. Maybe sometime we'll describe that. Parikshit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro. Wonderful class. I was just thinking like how we heard like Jatayu like selflessly fought, served, and remembered Lord Ram. But then I was also thinking like the reciprocation of Lord Ram. Like, I mean, he got to know about Sita Mata, the direction and all, but he didn't rush to, look for Sita, but rather he performed all the last rites.
Yes. So let me tell you one thing there, because which I forgot to tell. So once Jatayu leaves his body, Lord Ram immediately tells Lakshman that today the loss of Jatayu is more painful for me than the loss of Sita. He says that actually. He says that, and he performs the final rites just like how a son would perform for his father. He couldn't perform the final rites of his own father, but he performed the final rites of Jatayu, just like his own father. Yeah, very special. He was not rushing. Yeah, that's the Lord and the devotee, right? It's very, very special. He could have just rushed and saying that I have a purpose or things like. But yeah, taking care of his devotees was higher. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Manan Prabhu, your hand is raised. Maybe it was from the previous.
Sorry, I'll put it down.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, dear devotees, I think we can end here. It's 10:05. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jatayu ki jai. Hare Krishna.